My name is Sami Yaffa, and I've been a musician for 37 years professionally, and started with a Finnish band called Pelle Miljoona Oy. Went from there to Hanoi Rocks, from there to Jet Boy. Played with Joe and Jet and the Blackhearts and the reformed New York Dolls for 6 years, and recorded with a bunch of different people. Got on the same recording with Bruce Springsteen, which was kind of funny, and did some stuff with Slash from Guns N' Roses, and I started doing Soundtracker about 4 years ago. The first season came out 3 years ago, and we're now doing the season 3. I've been traveling the world pretty much all my life, and went to play, for example, in India when I was only 19 years old, and Thailand, so I've been getting to know all these different cultures a long time ago. And I always find that people are very similar everywhere on the planet, that the basic needs are the same. You know, it's the house over the roof, give me some food, let my family be healthy, and let me have a good time. Seems to be the unifying thing. And then when you end up in, you know, poorer areas or conflict areas, and you realize the injustice that is going on in the world, and music has always been some kind of a human race's psychiatrist in a way. It's been around since the beginning of man, I think, and it's some kind of a necessity to get stuff out of you, and it's really interesting to see how it develops in different parts of the world. And since the 1960s, 50s, 60s, when music has turned into a popular culture and it kind of starts homogenizing the musical environment, so to speak, it's sometimes harder and harder to find so-called original music. But then the interesting thing is that all those original folk music and whatever you want to call it, how they start morphing into the popular culture, and how from that then becomes new genres and new branches of this giant big tree that exists. So that's the surprising thing, is that the tenacity of music and the strength that it keeps surviving and it keeps morphing and keeps recreating itself. We do most of the recording on the field. We have our sound guy has with him an 8-track Pro Tools setup, portable, and we use contact microphones. We use one stereo microphone and then the one with the big sock, you know. And it's some of the bands are pretty tricky, because some of the bands that we record are pretty big. For example, trying to mic a Serbian horn band was a challenge, you know, to get all the intricacies and nuances out. And sometimes we end up in situations where we go to a club, for example, and we take a stereo out from the mixing console and then use the ambient mics, and then Svante Kolerus, our sound guy, he mixes it at home. And we played in Earl China Smith's house in Jamaica, who was a legendary guitar player who played with Bob Marley, and he was the Black Ark recording studio's house guitar player for Lee Scratch Perry. And we played in his home studio porch hangout place, which was pretty interesting. He had the system inside in his house, but everything happens outdoors. So you get on the recordings, you get the birds and you get the car going by and all that kind of stuff. So there's all kinds of different places, and inventiveness, that's the key word for everything. Once I found out about Genelec was, first of all, I didn't know that they were Finnish, which is really funny. This was a long time ago. And I was in New York, and somebody had bought a new set of speakers in the studio, and I was, what's that? He's like, well, that's the top of the line technology today. And I listened to it, and because before that it was the NS10s, it was the Yamaha that was kind of like the standard, because they're flat and they don't really enhance things too well, so they give you a somewhat decent thing. And I listened to Genelecs, and they are better than NS10s, but at the same time they give you a real picture. And I was really surprised about that, because the biggest problem that I always had was that when I walk out from the studio for mixing and then I put it on somewhere else, it sounds completely different. And since I've been working with Genelecs, it's disappeared a lot. I've gotten used to them, and I've been using them now since 2010, I think, 2011, something like that.